In this poll, more than half of your members say that the Prime Minister should stand down as Labour leader before the next election. Are you confident that he will lead you into the next election?
Absolutely, and I'm very proud of the job that Keir Starmer is doing. You know, he's been written off many, many times over his career. I think I was on your show the morning after the Hartlepool by-election, and people said then Keir Starmer could not win a general election for Labour. He picked this party up off the floor and he led us to a landslide victory in the general election last year. That victory gives us an obligation to focus on changing the things that matter most to the British people, not to talking to ourselves, and we're already making strides forward with that. I'll just give you one example of it. So in 10 months with this government, wages have gone up faster than in 10 years with the Conservatives. When the top issue facing the country is the cost of living, putting more money in people's pockets is the right thing to do, but it takes time for that to really feel different to people. So we have to stay on course. And not divert on the basis of one poll or another.
Well, when you say one poll or another, and I certainly wouldn't have the temerity to forecast, but we're talking about your own members. 53% of Labour members want the leader to move aside. Two-thirds think he's doing a bad job. Let me ask you again, are you certain he's going to lead you into the next election?
I'm certain. We're working towards a decade of national renewal. We need stability after the chaos an endless revolving door that we saw under the Conservatives, which is one of the reasons that we had the worst inheritance of any incoming government since the Second World War. It's because of what the Conservatives had got wrong, and we will focus on what we need to do to get issues right for the British people.
Well, you said that. You've been saying that for the last 15 months. Your biggest backer, Sharon Graham of Unite, when she got elected, said that there would be no more blank cheques for Labour. Today she says that the millions of pounds that they pay in affiliation fees are hard to justify. And she's going to tell us in the programme later on that the November the 26th budget is the moment that Unite members will judge on whether you're going to change direction. Is Rachel Reeves open to changing, not abandoning, but changing the fiscal rules to allow more spending?
Look, if we need stability to secure the future of this economy, we can't go chopping and changing on things like the fiscal rules. Look what happened when Liz Truss tried to do that. She crashed the economy. She sent mortgages, prices rocketing through the roof. People were terrified of what was going on. We will never go back to Liz Truss with this government.
I don't think Sharon Graham is asking you to get rid of the fiscal rules. She says specifically she believes in fiscal discipline, but she thinks you could be more flexible. It sounds like there is no possibility of change here. So you won't mind if Unite decide they're going to put their, what, 3 million somewhere else?
I think Unite, I mean, Sharon's a very strong negotiator. That would be clear from the interview that she did with you. But there is more money going into Unite members' pockets, just like there's more money going to everybody's pockets, because wages are now rising faster than prices. You didn't see that with the Conservatives. We've got 5 million more NHS appointments, cutting those record high waiting lists under the Conservatives.
She knows all of that. Her members know all of that. What you seem to be telling me is that in the end, if Unite walk, the fiscal rules are more important to you than keeping their support.
I don't think Unite will walk.
You can't know that.
We've got to.
You can't know that. Their boss sits in opposite me and says, actually, you've got till November the 26th to prove that it's worth paying this money.
We've got to stay the course. Now, we shouldn't be surprised that the British public are clearly, you see it in the polls, and Labour members aren't immune from this, they're part of the British public. People are angry with politics and politicians because of the serial broken promises we got from the previous government. They're angry with us now.
They're not angry with the person who's racking up 30% in the polls.
They're angry with politics and politicians at the moment. I think anybody who would be in government inheriting what we inherited would find that they were facing the same problem. The key thing is we have to put right what people wanted to change. We have to make that change real. So more money in people's pockets, cutting NHS waiting lists. 35,000 people who had no right to be in the country have been removed. That's way above what we had under the previous government. We need to fix our public services. We need to fix our high streets. I made an announcement just a couple of days ago about £5 billion going to 300 of our poorest communities to turn around broken high streets. That is the change that people will feel, and that is what will change their mind about politics.
I'll just have one more stab at this. And, you and your colleagues come on and they go through the list of the things that you've done.
That's because it's a good list, Trevor.
But if even your own members aren't hearing that list, if even your own members think it's not good enough, shouldn't you just at least acknowledge that not all is well in the state of, well, I was going to state of Denmark, under your leadership?
We knew this was going to be difficult. You cannot change overnight the state of the economy and public services that we inherited a year ago. I completely understand why people are upset and angry. They want change that they can feel, and they want it now. Unfortunately, you can't do it all at once, but we've turned the corner on wages, on the health service, on public services, on high streets, on housing, which I think we're going to go on to speak about in a moment. We're starting to fix all of these problems, and over the coming years, people will see and feel that difference, and that is what will rebuild trust in politics.
Let's talk about what you're going to do. You've guaranteed a £1.5 billion loan for the suppliers to Jaguar Land Rover after this cyber attack. Is this now going to be the new normal, that companies that suffer this kind of attack can expect the government to step in?
Well, what the government has done is we have underwritten a private sector loan, so no public money has actually gone to them yet, but it's important to underwrite that loan because thousands of jobs, not just at Jaguar Land Rover, but in the entire supply chain, are at risk. And we need to support that industry. We already, you saw the US trade deal. That protected tens of thousands of car workers' jobs. We care about this sector. You saw what we did when the steel industry was in danger. We recalled Parliament and we protected that industry. We care about people's jobs and about their livelihoods. But there's an issue underneath that, which is about cyber security. Because we've seen
Before you get onto that, I just want to be clear, because lots of people watching this are in companies and organisations that are vulnerable to this kind of attack. I just want to be clear. Can they now expect, because Jaguar Land Rover wasn't insured against this kind of attack apparently, can they now expect that if something happens that is going to cost them, in this case, possibly hundreds of millions, that the government will step in with a guarantee?
What we're trying to do is make sure that businesses are more resilient against this kind of attack. So the National Cyber Security Centre will be working with Jaguar Land Rover. We saw something similar at Marks and Spencer's, the Co-op and other leading businesses. They need to be supported to become more resilient to this kind of attack. It's a new form of crime, it's growing, it's evolving. We need to evolve our defences to that as well. But we'll also be talking to those businesses and their insurers to make sure that they've done the right things to protect themselves in the future. But right now, this Labour Party, this Labour government is not going to watch and stand by while tens of thousands of jobs get lost.
All right, big issue of the week is two-child benefit cap. Do you want it lifted?
Of course, we want it lifted in the end, but we have to do it at a time that we can afford it, Trevor, because if we do things we want to do while it can't be afforded, then we genuinely do end up where Liz Truss was, and we won't do that. But this Labour government, like all Labour governments before it, will take child poverty seriously. We've already lifted 100,000 children out of poverty by extending free school meals. We've increased childcare costs to £7,500 per child up to the age of 4. That is a massive boost to household incomes.
So can we expect on November the 26th the Chancellor to tell us that the time has come to lift the two-child?
Well, I'd be in big trouble if I sat here this morning and wrote Rachel Reeves' budget for her. We will.
But you like that to happen. You guys keep hinting. You keep hinting on this.
It'll happen when we can afford to do it, because doing anything else would jeopardise the economy, and that damages poorer families as well as all other families.
Okay, two MPs, John McDonnell and Afsana Begum, who had the whip withdrawn because they rebelled on the two-child benefit cap, have had it restored. Is that a signal that there's a deal?
It's not a signal about anything at all. It's just that they'd served their time of suspension and now readmitted to the party, and that's the right thing to do. But we'll always take action on child poverty. All
right. The other big issue that Prime Minister's signalled is that employees are going to have to carry digital IDs by the end of this Parliament. The question I think that is in many people's minds is, would an employer who hires illegal immigrants now and lawfully has to ascertain their status, why would he or she do anything different just because the ID is digital? If they're breaking the law now, why is this going to stop them breaking the law?
Well, because it's much easier for the authorities to see who an employer is employing when the entire system is digitised. So if you've got, one of those, car wash things that you see on some high streets, and it doesn't look like they're employing anybody, and yet on the data that will be coming from this, and yet there are people going in there and getting their cars washed. The authorities know that is a business.
Okay, so we can expect to see some of the sort of raids that Mr. Trump has visited on Americans.
Well, what we'll be doing,
snatch squads charging into nail bars and
because you've raised it, it's been on your show plenty of times, and I know because I've knocked on enough doors, that illegal immigration into this country is a real problem for the British people. They want it resolved. One of the things we can do, digital ID, on your phone, we all carry digital devices now, means that we can make it harder for people coming illegally into the country to get work. We can stop those businesses that are employing them and in some cases exploiting them from continuing to do that without being discovered. It's another barrier in the way of illegal immigration into this country, and we need to tackle the priorities of the British people. That's the top one.
I just want to ask you about two quick things. One is the youth mobility scheme. There's hints now that it's being negotiated with the EU. Is that true?
Well, you know from the reset that there are conversations going on with the EU about youth mobility, but this isn't permanent immigration. This would be a limited number of young people under 30 coming in for a fixed period of time, and then they would be required to leave.
But it's on the table. Contrary to what Yvette Cooper and others kept telling me last year, that this wouldn't be on the table at all. It's now.
Well, we already know from the reset that this is something that the government is looking at, but it isn't permanent immigration.
It
would never be permanent immigration. Well, we have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. I'm not involved myself. I'm focused on building 1.5 million homes, not on that particular issue.
Well, let's talk about the homes very briefly, if we may. By the way. You promised 1.5 million new homes.
Yep.
300,000 a year, 75,000 a quarter. I looked it up. In the quarter to June, you completed not 75,000, but 35,000. 19% down on the same quarter last year. How are you ever going to get to that target? Why not just admit you're not going to make it?
Start's actually a 29% up, but the planning process is very long and cumbersome. So what you're seeing now, it takes time to put in the application, get the consent, put your spades in the ground and then complete it. It can take a year and a half, 2 years. So we're seeing the tail end of what the previous government was failing to do. Okay. We've got new legislation going through Parliament right now. It should be signed off into law, get royal consent in November. That will speed up the planning process. Then I'm working with developers to take down the remaining barriers to getting homes built. We will go ahead and get those homes built up and down the country. We're also announcing today that we accept the recommendations of the New Towns Task Force, and this government will start building a new generation of new towns, something we've not seen since the end of the Second World War.
All right. I'd love to talk to you more about that, but of course, the big news is really what the Prime Minister's saying. He arrived yesterday and he repeated what seems to be the new slogan, patriotic national renewal. The precise dictionary opposite of patriot is traitor. Who's a traitor?
Well, what we're facing, I'm not going to pick your language and use it.
No, that's the Prime Minister's language.
There's
patriotic
a choice.
National renewal.
There's a choice.
Patriots, which is you, who are the traitors?
I agree, I am a patriot, but what we're facing, the choice we're facing is division and decline with Nigel Farage, or national renewal with the Labour Party.
You can't just toss these words into the air.
Yes, I can.
And then when... did you just say Nigel Farage?
No, it's division and decline with Nigel Farage.
I'm asking, you can't just toss these words into the air, and then when I ask you, well, who is the traitor, say, oh no, we're not.
But I'm not the kind of person that would bandy language like that.
The Prime Minister is. I'm using the Prime Minister's
If you look what Nigel Farage did recently, he went to the United States, sat in front of the United States Congress, and begged them to put sanctions on British workers. That's not very patriotic, is it? It's far from patriotic.
Is it treasonous?
It's certainly not patriotic. I think your viewers can take their own view about what he was doing, but somebody who goes to another country and calls for sanction on British workers is not somebody who is patriotic. Somebody who says they want to privatise the NHS and make people to go and pay to see their GP, well, the public will have a view about whether that's the man they want to be Prime Minister and go ahead and do that. But for me, that isn't very patriotic.
Well, I noticed that you don't want to call him a traitor, but anyway, let's talk about the Prime Minister's battle for the soul of the country. He paints that as a noble cause, and he then says, like you're saying, Nigel Farage, toxic, divisive. Nigel Farage says this is a defining struggle for the nation, the Prime Minister's own words again. So does this mean that when you say something is divisive and there's a struggle, when you're saying it, it's noble and unifying, and when someone else offers their opinion in almost exactly the same words, that it's wicked and toxic?
Well, look, let me tell you what he's about, because I was on a TV show with him just a few weeks ago.
You're using the same words, but you're saying he is toxic, but you're lovely and unifying.
I was on a show with him a few weeks ago, and he was asked a question. His answer was, I don't know, I've got no idea, I don't know what I'm going to do. We've got a plan that is actually going to change this country. I'm announcing our plans to move ahead with a generation of new towns to build the homes people in this country want. Nigel Farage is against it all. He's going to privatise the National Health Service. He wants sanctions on the British economy. That man's not patriotic, and that man's got no ideas at all. This is the party that's renewing our country and has a plan for change.
OK, let me ask you this. Does the Prime Minister get it that every time he says reform is toxic, Nigel Farage is grubby, poisonous and all of that, the former Labour voters who are currently expressing a preference for Nigel Farage hear that what the Prime Minister is saying is that their beliefs too are toxic and poisonous, and maybe they're a bit grubby too. Is that the way to win back the people that you've lost?
I think what the Prime Minister was saying, that it is toxic to seek to divide the country.
And it is toxic to seek to divide.
I understand what voters might hear. But what the Prime Minister was saying is it's toxic to seek to divide the country. It's toxic to just allow the decline we saw under the previous government to continue. Patriotic national renewal is about fixing our National Health Service, building the homes people want to live in, putting more money in people's pockets, as we've done for 10 months with the biggest wage increases people have seen in a decade. So that is the change people want to see. That's what they're going to get with Labour.